But our current best assessment, based on the information that we have at present, is that in fact what this began as was a spontaneous, not a premeditated, response to what had transpired in Cairo. In Cairo, as you know, a few hours earlier, there was a violent protest that was undertaken in reaction to this very offensive video that was disseminated. We believe that folks in Benghazi, a small number of people came to the embassy or to the consulate rather, to replicate the sort of challenge that was posed in Cairo. And then as that unfolded, it seems to have been hijacked, let us say, by some individual clusters of extremists who came with heavier weapons, weapons that, as you know, in the wake of the revolution in Libya are quite common and accessible. And it then evolved from there. We'll wait to see exactly what the investigation finally confirms, but that's the best information we have at present. But based on the best information we have to date, what our assessment is as of the present is in fact what it began spontaneously in Benghazi as a reaction to what had transpired some hours earlier in Cairo, where of course, as you know, there was a violent protest outside of our embassy sparked by this hateful video. But soon after that spontaneous protest began outside of our consulate in Benghazi, we believe that it looks like extremist elements, individuals joined in that effort with heavy weapons of the sort that are unfortunately readily now available in Libya post-revolution, and that it spun from there into something much, much more violent.
But you do not agree with him that this was something that had been plotted out several months ago?
We do not have information at present that leads us to conclude that this was premeditated or pre-planned.
Can you say definitively that the attacks on our consulate in Libya that killed Ambassador Stevens and others, their security personnel, that was spontaneous? Was it a planned attack? Was there a terrorist element to it?
Well, let me tell you the best information we have at present. First of all, there's an FBI investigation which is ongoing, and we look to that investigation to give us the definitive word as to what transpired. But putting together the best information that we have available to us today, our current assessment is that what happened in Benghazi was in fact initially a spontaneous reaction to what had just transpired hours before in Cairo, almost a copycat of the demonstrations against our facility in Cairo, which were prompted, of course, by the video. What we think then transpired in Benghazi is that opportunistic extremist elements came to the consulate as this was unfolding. They came with heavy weapons, which unfortunately are readily available in post-revolutionary Libya, and it escalated into a much more violent episode. There was a hateful video that was disseminated on the internet. It had nothing to do with the United States government, and it's one that we find disgusting and reprehensible. It's been offensive to many, many people around the world. That sparked violence in various parts of the world, including violence directed against Western facilities, including our embassies and consulates. That violence is absolutely unacceptable. It's not a response that one can ever condone when it comes to such a video. And we've been working very closely and indeed effectively with the governments in the region and around the world to secure our personnel, secure our embassy, condemn the violent response to this video. And frankly, we've seen these sorts of incidents in the past. We've seen violent responses to satanic verses. We've seen violent responses to the cartoons depicting the Prophet Muhammad in an evil way. So this is something we've seen in the past, and we expect that it's possible that these kinds of things could percolate into the future.
This week, there have been anti-American protests in 24 countries across the Islamic world. The White House says it has nothing to do with the president's policies. Let's watch.
This is not a case of protests directed at the United States writ large or at U.S. policy. This is in response to a video that is offensive.
You don't really believe that?
Chris, absolutely I believe that, because in fact it's the case. We've had the evolution of the Arab Spring over the last many months, but what sparked the recent violence was the airing on the internet of a very hateful, very offensive video that has offended many people around the world. Now, our strong view is that there's no excuse for violence. It's absolutely reprehensible and never justified. But in fact, there have been those in various parts of the world who have reacted with violence. Their governments have increasingly and effectively responded and protected our facilities and condemned the violence and this outrageous response to what is an offensive video. But there's no question that, as we've seen with in the past with things like Satanic Verses, with the cartoon of the Prophet Muhammad, there have been such things that have sparked outrage and anger, and this has been the proximate cause of what we've seen.
Now, it may